In Mexico City, Eduardo and Jane met with senior officials of the federal police who had many questions about their ordeal and who took the kidnappers' new threats very seriously. You must leave now, they were told. Here at police headquarters, they were suddenly surrounded by a protective ring of men with assault weapons. The police hustled them back to the ranch, allowed 48 hours to prepare. And then, the son of one of Mexico's great newspaper barons, with Jane and his family, was escorted out of the land he loved. That kidnapped employee, by the way, the kidnappers simply released him nearly 3 months later, no ransom at all. By then, Jane and Eduardo and their children had squeezed into what they expected would be a temporary exile, 2 months or so, at Jane's mother's house in America. Why just 2 months? Mostly because federal police assured them they had significant leads. They still insisted they knew the group responsible, a Marxist revolution party called the EPR. And besides, one of the officials who debriefed Eduardo was soon promoted to commissioner of federal police. And hadn't he promised personally that he'd aggressively chase down the abductors? But 2 months grew to 3, then 6. No word.
I tried to call different times the higher officials in Mexico. They have never answered me back, answered my telephone calls.
Eduardo did wonder sometimes if he'd have to be like this man.
Follow-up? What's that?
Remember him? His daughter was killed by kidnappers, and afterwards he says the federal police did nothing. So he closed his business and tracked the criminals down himself and delivered them for trial.
I know, that's not the way it should be, but it was the only way to do it, if I wanted to have justice. Justice is something in Mexico that you won't get if you don't fight for it.
Jane and Eduardo did what they could to fight for it too. But after 2 years had gone by, 2 years of exile, the conclusion seemed inescapable.
When you get pulled into this whole world, the authorities in Mexico basically tell you, look, you're going to be paying ransom. You know, it's as if there's no other option. It's as if they've given up from the beginning. So all we can do is hold your hand and help you through the process of coming up with an amount you can pay. We pay it.
Next.
Next.
We arranged an interview with the commissioner of the federal police, the man who debriefed Eduardo, Facundo Rosas. The search for the kidnappers is continuing, he said, non-stop.
Are you close to an arrest in this case?
It's a systematic job that does not allow us to give advances as to people being captured. We usually speak after the events have taken place.
The investigation continues.
It is a permanent investigation with a systematic focus.
But there was one crucial piece of information the commissioner did pass on to us. The same thing his officers had been telling Jane and Eduardo all along. The EPR had taken Eduardo.
Yes, we do have information, precise information.
National security, he said, prevented him from revealing more than that.
I asked for proof. How did they know?
But Mexican journalist Alejandro Jimenez, a specialist in terror groups and kidnappings, says his contacts inside the EPR assured him repeatedly they would certainly have taken responsibility for kidnapping Eduardo had they done it. But they didn't do it. Still, the federal police told Jimenez
that I should forget about the case, that it was a closed case, that he paid the ransom, nothing more.
It was an odd reaction, he said, and to him, suspicious.
Our reflex as Mexican journalists is to suspect. They're blaming a guerrilla group without showing proof. They're hiding something. Police could have been involved, or maybe members of the military, which is what tends to happen in high-impact kidnappings.
Was it possible? Up in their temporary American refuge, Jane and Eduardo were feeling a pull to say something, get involved.
Well, you know what? I think that the moment you cower into a corner and keep your mouth shut, you become a part of the problem. So, is that the example that I want to give to my kids?
By now, they'd been away 2 years. And gradually, month by month, the memory of their terror had come to be mixed with a nostalgia for the life they left behind. Which is, in part, why Jane and Eduardo decided to return with us to their beloved ranch, a place to tell their story. It had to be secret. No one could know they were coming. They could only stay a few days. During the time in America, Eduardo had become convinced someone close to the family must have passed information to the kidnappers before. What if they did it again?
Because you never know who is informing these people, because they knew everything about the kids. They knew everything about us. So anybody could be there telling them, you know, here they're back.
Bodyguards would come along too. A strange accessory now, given what a free and happy place the ranch used to be.
That first night, though, in your old bed in the house, was that a little weird, getting back into that?
Oh, it was great. I mean, really.
Well, and I slept well knowing that we had bodyguards.
It was just as they left it. Their clothes still filled the closets. Family portraits decorated their rooms. Even the dogs greeted them as if their forced departure had been yesterday. Eduardo threw himself back at his old jobs, mending fences, fixing broken bits, checking on a crop. Of course, the stables were still empty, his horses gone for ransom. And then an old friend hears Eduardo is home and brings his own horses. His first ride since leaving the box. And in these moments, they feel finally like they're home again. There's a happy reunion at the school Jane helped found. They lead her around the campus to show off the progress they've made in her absence.
Wow, it looks amazing.
How painful that absence has been. Their trip back to the ranch coincides with Eduardo's 61st birthday. Jane hastily organizes a fiesta. Only close and trusted friends are invited. Party food prepared. The favorite charro suit out of the closet. And they, in a magic evening, are transported back into the world they left behind. A world they loved. In those months in the box, Eduardo had stayed sane by dreaming of singing again with mariachi. Tonight, he does.
Estoy pensando en tu amor, y a lo loco platico contigo.
It was just wonderful. For Jenny and I, it was just like 100% therapy. To go back to the place and feel happy about it and feel safe about it. It was fantastic.
Was it possible to come back? Could they find a way to feel safe? Could they have all this again? As we interviewed Jane about that very possibility, the answer, quite suddenly, began to reveal itself.